Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, I had a bit of a moment with my computer the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a real sort of future is now moment,
Right.
which was followed almost immediately by a why is the future so stupid moment.
That honestly sounds like the standard experience with modern tech right now. You get these high hopes and then an immediate crash. What exactly happened?
So I was messing around with one of the big AI chatbots. I won't name names, but you know the type.
Sure.
And I decided to really test its creative limits. So I asked it to write a poem about my dog Barnaby,
Okay.
but I asked for it in the style of a 17th century sea shanty.
That is very specific. I like it. How did it do?
Honestly, it was incredible.
Really?
Yeah, it had these rhymes about salty paws and chasing the horizon. It was moving. I almost cried reading it.
Wow.
Right. But then I felt emboldened by this display of just absolute genius.
Huh.
So I said, okay, that's great. Now go into my calendar, find a slot for a vet appointment next Tuesday, and book it for Barnaby.
And let me guess, it hit a wall.
It didn't just hit a wall. It politely explained that it is a large language model trained by researchers.
Right. The classic disclaimer.
Yeah, and it cannot perform actions in the real world. It was like hiring this genius assistant who is trapped in a glass box.
That is exactly it.
They can shout brilliant advice through the glass, but they can't pick up the phone. They can't actually do anything.
That glass box feeling you're describing, that is exactly what we're unpacking today.
Yeah.
It is the defining frustration of the current moment in AI. I mean, we have mastered the thinking part, right? The poetry, the coding advice, the summarization.
You sea shanties.
Exactly, the sea shanties. But the doing part, connecting that brain to your calendar or your credit card or your company database, that is a whole different beast.
It really is. And to help us wrap our heads around how we actually break out of that box, we are looking at a really fascinating piece of writing today.
Yeah, it's a great one.
It's an article titled The Secret Life of Azure The Librarian with Hands. It's by Aaron Rose, and it was published on tech-reader.blog.
And I have to say, for a technical article about Azure AI architecture, this was a surprisingly gripping read.
Right.
Usually these things are just dry as toast.
Yeah.
But Rose uses this narrative device to explain it all.
Yeah, it uses this elaborate metaphor of a library. We've got a librarian named Timothy, a wise mentor figure named Margaret, and this glowing entity called the Voice.
It feels a lot less like a manual and more like a fable.
It does.
But the fable is doing some heavy lifting here. It's essentially a roadmap for how we move from a chatbot, which is what gave you the sea shanty,
Right.
to an agent, which is what you needed for the vet appointment.
Exactly. So our mission today for you listening is to decode that story. We're going to look at the specific mechanisms Rose highlights, things like function calling.
Which sounds terrifyingly technical.
It does, function calling and the loop. And we're going to use those to understand how AI is finally getting a pair of hands.
And perhaps most importantly, we'll explore what that means for us, the humans, who suddenly have to manage these digital colleagues.
Because the dynamic changes completely.
Completely.
So let's dive into the story. The article opens on a scene of just total chaos. We're in this grand, infinite library.
Right.
And we meet Timothy.
Poor Timothy.
Yeah.
He really represents the application logic or the developer in this scenario.
Right, he is the head librarian. And he has built this incredible thing called the Voice.
Yeah.
It's this glowing presence inside a glass booth right at the center of the library.
And you can think of the Voice as your standard large language model.
Like the chatbot I was using.
Exactly. It has read every book in the library. It knows everything. It can recite poetry, summarize history, explain quantum physics.
But despite having this absolute genius in the room, Timothy is sweating. He's exhausted.
Because he's doing all the work.
Right. He is running back and forth between the glass booth and the stockroom, carrying stacks of paper, making phone calls, looking up files.
Because he's caught in what Rose calls the middleman trap.
Yes.
This is the core problem identified early on. In the story, a patron comes in and asks a really complex question. The Voice gives a perfect answer.
Will you answer?
But then the patron says, great, please reserve those books for me and order the supplies I need to read them.
And the Voice says,
I'm sorry, I can't do that.
it's the vet appointment all over again.
Precisely. Timothy realizes that even though he has automated the intelligence, he hasn't automated the labor.
Yeah.
He has to stand there, listen to the AI's recommendation, write it down on a piece of paper, run to the stockroom, check the inventory himself, and place the order.
There is a line in the article that really stuck with me. Timothy wipes his forehead and says, "I've given the library a brain, but it doesn't have any hands."
That image is so important. If we translate this to the real world, this is the state of most enterprise AI right now.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
It is. You have a brilliant LLM that can write a complete marketing strategy, but it can't log into your email marketing platform, upload the images, segment the list, and hit send.
Right, it's text in, text out.
Exactly.
Creates this bottleneck where the human is just a copy-paste machine. You're taking the output from the AI and manually feeding it into the next system.
Which feels totally backward.
It defeats the purpose of automation, doesn't it?
Completely. If you have to babysit the transfer of information, you aren't really saving that much time. You're just shifting the boredom from writing the email to sending the email.
So Timothy is at his breaking point. He's about to quit. And this is where the story shifts. The doors of the library open and in walks Margaret.
The mentor figure.
Right.
In the context of the article, she represents the Azure architect or the senior engineer who actually knows how the platform works.
And she looks at this chaotic scene, sees Timothy hyperventilating, and she doesn't offer him more code. She offers a key ring.
A set of intricate brass keys. This is where the metaphor gets really clever, I think.
I agree.
Margaret explains that to make the library autonomous, you can't just keep making the brain smarter.
Right.
A smarter brain inside a glass box is still stuck in a glass box.
Yeah.
You have to give it tools.
And in the technical world, specifically in the Azure ecosystem, Rose is describing these keys represent function calling. Now, I have to be honest, when I first saw the term function calling, I panicked a little bit.
It does sound like you need a computer science degree.
It sounds like I need a PhD just to understand it.
Yeah.
My fear is that giving the AI tools means letting the AI write its own code. Like, am I giving this chatbot root access to my database?
Oh, no.
Is it going to rewrite my payroll system while I'm sleeping?
No. And that is a massive misconception. That would be terrifying.
It really would.
If the AI were writing raw code to access your database every time, it might hallucinate a command and accidentally delete your entire user table.
Delete table users. Oops. Sorry about that.
Exactly. Function calling is much safer than that. Think of it like a menu at a restaurant.
Okay.
You, the developer, predefine a list of specific things the AI is allowed to do. You aren't giving it the keys to the kitchen, you're giving it a menu to order from.
Okay, that helps a lot. So in the story, Margaret hands Timothy the keys. What do the keys actually do?
She tells Timothy to define the capabilities. So you might say, okay, AI, here's a tool called check inventory, here's a tool called place order, and here's a tool called send email.
So these are the brass keys on the ring.
Mm-hmm.
The AI can use these, but literally nothing else.
Correct. It can't magically invent a way to format your hard drive. It can only choose from the keys you gave it.
But how does the connection actually happen? How does the voice, which speaks English, turn that into something a computer database understands?
This is the really cool part. When a patron asks to order supplies, the AI analyzes the request. It realizes, hey, I can't answer this with just words. I need to take an action.
Right.
It looks at its keyring. It sees the place order key.
Does it physically turn the key?
In the metaphor, yes.
Okay.
In reality, what happens is the AI generates a very specific structured piece of text. It's usually something called JSON.
Jeez, that's the data format with the
Yeah.
curly brackets, right?
Exactly. So instead of writing a poem, the AI outputs a clean little packet of data. It says, essentially, I want to call the function name place order. For the variable quantity, use 50. For the variable item, use vellum.
Ah, I see. So the AI isn't doing the ordering, it's filling out a form.
Bingo. That is the critical distinction.
Wow.
The AI provides the intent I want to order and the data 50 vellum. But the system, your actual hard-coded software, takes that form and executes the action.
Right.
The AI says, please order 50, and your inventory software actually processes the transaction.
That makes me feel a lot better about safety, honestly.
It should.
It's like the AI is the operator at the drive-thru. It punches in my order, but the kitchen, the rigid, predictable system actually makes the burger. The operator can't suddenly decide to cook a shoe because cook shoe isn't on the menu.
That is a remarkably vivid analogy, but
Oh,
yes,
that is.
that's exactly it. It separates the messy, creative reasoning of the AI from the strict logic of the database.
Okay, so we have the brain, which is the voice, and we have the tools, which are the keys. But Margaret isn't done yet in this story.
No, she's not.
She draws a diagram on the chalkboard that kind of changes everything.
She draws a circle, a loop.
This brings us to the concept of the agent. I feel like agent is the buzzword of the year right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone is selling an AI agent now.
Right. But in this specific story, What makes an agent different from just a chatbot holding a keyring?
It's the ability to reason in steps. A chatbot is linear. Input hello, output hi there, end of transaction.
Right, it just waits for me to talk again.
Exactly. An agent, as Rose describes in the article, thinks in a loop. It perceives, it plans, it acts. And this is the kicker, it checks.
It checks its own work.
It checks the result of its action. The article uses a great example here involving a study group. I think walking through this really clarifies the difference.
Yeah, let's do that. So the scenario is a patron comes in and says, I want to organize a study group for History 101 next Tuesday.
Right. If this were a basic chatbot, it would just say, here are some tips for organizing a study group. Find a quiet room, bring snacks, send invites.
Thanks, very helpful. But I still have to do all the actual work.
Exactly. But the librarian, with Hans the agent, starts the loop.
Okay.
Step 1 is perception. It understands the goal. Book a room, invite people. Step 2 is action. It uses the check calendar tool for Tuesday.
Right.
But let's say the tool comes back and says room A is full.
A basic bot might just error out there, right? It would just say, sorry, room full.
Exactly. But the agent loops. It gets that feedback, room A is full, and it goes back to the planning phase.
Oh, wow.
It thinks, okay, room A is full. I shouldn't give up. I should check room B. It calls the tool again.
So it's persistent. It just keeps spinning through this cycle until it solves the problem.
Right. It orchestrates the workflow. It finds the room, then it uses the email tool to send the invites, then it uses the order tool to get the snacks.
It strings them all together.
It strings these individual tools together to achieve a high-level goal.
Rose calls this orchestration. It sounds like the AI is acting as a sort of traffic controller.
Or a conductor. It's managing the flow of information between the user, the tools, and the ultimate goal. It remembers the context from step 1 while it's executing step 5.
It sounds amazing, honestly, just having a machine that doesn't give up at the first hurdle. But there's always a but. There is always a but in these stories. Timothy, being the practical librarian he is, immediately spots a problem.
Timothy is a smart guy. He looks at this autonomous looping machine and asks the question that basically keeps every CIO awake at night. What if it goes rogue?
The sorcerer's apprentice scenario.
Yes.
The brooms carrying the buckets of water forever.
Exactly. Timothy asks, what if it misunderstands a request? What if someone says, order plenty of paper, and the agent interprets plenty as 10,000 crates?
And because it's a loop, it just keeps ordering until the library is bankrupt.
Or physically full of paper?
Right.
It's a very real danger. Hallucinations in a chatbot are annoying. You get a bad poem.
Yeah.
But hallucinations in an agent are dangerous. You lose money, you corrupt data, you shut down servers.
So how do we stop the Vellum apocalypse?
Margaret pulls out her final lesson, the guarded gate.
I love the terminology in this article. It sounds like a fantasy novel. The guarded gate.
It's dramatic, but the technical term is human in the loop, or HITL.
Okay, so how does the guarded gate work in practice? Does the human have to approve every single tiny step? Because if I have to click yes every time the AI checks the calendar, that completely defeats the purpose of automation.
No, and that's the nuance here. Margaret explains that you set permissions based on risk. For low-risk things like checking the calendar, searching the catalog, or drafting an email, the agent can run free.
Just let it loop as much as it wants.
Exactly. But for the high-risk stuff,
Like spending money.
yes. Sending budgets, sending mass emails to the whole client list, or deleting files. You put up a gate. The agent can prepare the action, but it cannot execute it.
So in the Vellum example, the agent would fill out the order form for 10,000 crates of Vellum. It would get everything completely ready. But then it pauses.
Right, it sends a notification to Timothy. I have prepared an order for 10,000 crates. Click here to submit.
And Timothy sees it as a minor heart attack, deletes the order, and corrects the AI.
Exactly. Bad robot. Only 10 crates.
Right.
Margaret puts it beautifully. She says, we give the agent hands, but we keep the remote control.
This feels like the missing piece for business adoption. I talk to so many people who are fascinated by AI agents, but are terrified of letting them loose on their customers or their bank accounts.
And they should be. Trust is earned. The guarded gate allows you to build that trust incrementally.
Makes sense.
Maybe at first you approve every email. Then once you see the agent is reliable, you remove the gate for internal emails, but you keep it for client emails.
It's tunable.
Highly tunable. You don't have to hand over the keys to the castle on day one.
So let's look at the full picture we've built here for everyone listening. We started with the brain in the glass box. Smart but helpless.
Right. And then we gave it a toolbox using function calling. allowing it to turn keys and interact with software by filling out those JSON forms.
Then we turned it into an agent by letting it think in loops, trying, checking, and retrying until the job is done.
And finally, we secured it with the guarded gate, ensuring a human is always there for the critical decisions.
The story wraps up with a really nice moment. Timothy sees it all working. A patron asks for that study group, and the voice handles it, booking the rooms, sending the invites, just perfectly smoothly.
And Timothy realizes his life has changed.
He isn't running to the stockroom anymore.
He isn't the exhausted middleman.
Right. Margaret turns to him and says something really profound. She says, when you give the library hands, you stop being the operator and start being the director.
That is the takeaway of the decade right there.
Let's unpack that. Operator versus director. What does that shift look like for the person listening to this right now?
Well, think about your own daily work. How much of your day is spent being an operator? Clicking buttons, moving data from a spreadsheet to a CRM, scheduling meetings, formatting reports.
Too much. Way too much. I feel like 80% of my day is just moving bits of information from one window to another window.
That is operator work. You are the glue holding disparate systems together.
Okay.
But if you have an agent that can use tools, the agent becomes the operator.
So I'm out of a job?
No, you get a better job. You become the director.
Okay.
The director's job is to define the goal, provide the right tools, and monitor the quality. You aren't playing the instrument anymore, you're conducting the orchestra.
It sounds great in theory, but it actually requires a different skill set, doesn't it? You have to be really good at explaining what you want.
Yes. Ambiguity is the enemy of the agent.
Yeah.
If you tell a human, handle that client issue, they know what you mean. They have context. If you tell an agent handle it, it might refund their money or it might ban their account.
Or it might send them a sea shanty.
Exactly. As a director, you need to be precise. You need to understand the logic of the workflow. You need to say, if the client is unhappy, check their purchase history. If they spent more than $50, offer a refund. If not, offer a coupon.
It's almost like we all have to become soft programmers. We aren't writing code, but we are designing logic flows.
Precisely. The barrier to entry for building software is dropping rapidly. You don't need to know C++ or Python to build an agent workflow.
Yeah.
You just need to know how your business works and how to articulate it to the AI.
It's empowering, but also a little daunting. The responsibility shifts from doing the work hard to thinking about the work clearly.
Which, ironically, is what humans are supposed to be good at. We are freeing ourselves to be strategic rather than tactical.
I really like that. We are finally getting out of the stockroom.
Just like Timothy.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you listening with a bit of a provocation, something to chew on.
Go for it.
We talked a lot about the guarded gate, that safety mechanism where the human hits approve.
Right.
It feels absolutely necessary right now because AI is still new and occasionally hallucinates. But
I see where you're going with this.
if these agents get better and faster and more reliable, at what point does the director us become the bottleneck?
That is the big question. If an agent can process 1,000 customer requests in a minute, but it has to wait for you to come back from lunch to hit approve on every single one, are you actually destroying the value of the AI?
Exactly. We want autonomy, but we crave control. How many guarded gates will we eventually tear down just for the sake of speed?
It's going to be a slippery slope. We'll likely see a future where we only approve the exceptions and the rest just happens in the background, totally invisible to us.
A library that runs itself while Timothy sits on the beach.
Or Timothy's busy designing the next library.
Ideally, yes. Huge thanks to the source for this deep dive, The Secret Life of Azure the Librarian with Hands by Aaron Rose. You can find the full article, and I highly recommend checking out the diagrams of the loops and keys at tech-reader.blog.
It really helps to visualize these things.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Go take a look at your own workflows. Find those places where you're just moving papers around and ask yourself, could an agent hold the keys to this?
Just keep one hand on the remote control.
Always. See you next time.